Ebro in the morning. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, we have the beautiful Laura Styles Rosenberg's here, and we're going to get into an amazing conversation right now about what is actually happening at Standing Rock. We're getting a lot of news about the Dakota Access Pipeline. Is it happening? Has it been stopped? When Trump gets in office, is it still going to come through? Let's start down here with Immortal Technique, and everybody introduce yourselves to the people out there.
Peace, how you doing? My name is Immortal Technique, an artist, activist, teacher, and I went out to Standing Rock to the Dakotas twice, and my role there was just to help out. I didn't go there to bring anybody freedom. I found freedom among people. I didn't go there to give any direction. I went there to take direction. We did supply runs, taxi runs, whatever we needed to do. There was no ego, nothing involved. And the most beautiful thing about it to me was to see indigenous people who have had a history in the past of differences that, you know, are pretty significant come together and unite over something like this. And it expanded that unification. We found people from all different communities, black, white, Latino, indigenous, Muslim, Christian, Jewish. It was packed, atheist, didn't matter. People were there for the cause and for the movement, and that's inspiring to me. And that's the culture of hip hop. You know, that's the culture of resistance. That's the culture of fighting and fighting for a good cause. And I'm proud to stand behind these people and those brave indigenous people out there. Peace.
I'm glad that, by the way, you said that really quick. We'll keep moving on. That he said that what were the different calls? You said culture of resistance, culture of hip hop. Because earlier this week we had something where people kind of jumped on me because I said fighting for the culture, and I think everyone thought I was trying to appropriate black culture. And sometimes it's more than just black culture. It's like you said, it's a culture of righteousness. It's a culture of doing the right thing.
Culture of awareness.
A culture of awareness.
But when it's specifically targeted at people who are traditionally the victims of that, because they are the individuals with the least amount of political representation. So when we discuss that, let's keep that in line, that the system is testing itself on people, right?
Right.
They came after lots of people before. They came after prominent Jewish people in Germany, right? There was lots of other people that were getting it first. Mm-hmm. And the reality is that if we don't pay attention to that, if we don't look at the things that are formulated now, then we run the risk of not being a proactive but a reactive society. And I'll just give people a real brief example. Everywhere in this city you see water towers over the building. If one of them falls off the building tomorrow and smashes and kills somebody, God forbid that happen, what's going to happen? You're going to have de Blasio on. We're going to have an inspection on all of them, but there ain't no inspection calling for it today, right? Let's be proactive instead of reactive to stuff.
Good stuff, Tech. All right.
What's happening? This is Rev Yearwood, president of the Hip Hop Caucus. I'm actually going to relinquish my spot, come back to me, and get my sister first.
Peace and blessings. My name is Yanaja Lone Wolf. I am Oglala Lakota and African American, and I am a human rights activist and national organizer. And I have been, Standing Rock is my sister tribe. And so this really hits me personally in regards to this oil pipeline, and as well as this oil pipeline, if built, will go through my nation in South Dakota. And so, but I have been working with the Standing Rock tribe since July, since those youth. They gave me a call and said that the youth are going to run from North Dakota all the way to DC to bring awareness. These were young people that activated this movement. And so it was so powerful. And Shailene Hoodley, the actress, she went with them and ran with them. And so it was the youth that spearheaded this. And so I've been helping to bring more awareness. And we did a huge benefit concert last weekend. And shout out to Taboo and Vic Mensa and all of the native artists. When you're talking about hip hop, I mean, native hip hop is so huge. So Natani Means, Def I, Stuart James, Keys IMC, who also got arrested several times. So it's the youth that have been, and I have to consider myself a youth. We have been on the front line against these construction workers and the militarized police, and the way that they have been treating us have been, it looked like we was at war. That's exactly what it feels like. We are all dealing, even myself, are dealing with just, doses of PTSD. It's just so horrible. Rubber bullets, freezing water. Yes. Dogs. We was literally running from the dogs because they was using the dogs to try to attack us. And then not only that, I had some friends from Ferguson that came, and I also was helping with the Black Lives Matter movement to come, and as the Black Panthers to come, and just because that's what the tribe wanted. The tribe wanted everyone to come. And so myself being of two great nations of being Black and Native, they was like, we need you to help us to bring in not only the Native and Latino community, but also the Black community, because you all have been on the front line against fighting police brutality. And what they're doing here is exactly what we've been doing, what we was fighting in Ferguson. So when I brought the Ferguson group, Tory Russell, he was like, wow, that's not even tear gas. They're using bear gas, which goes all the way down to your bones and you feel it. And it's just, we all now at camp have we call it the dapple cough, because we don't know what is in the air. It goes to our throat. I was sick. I had a temperature of 103 just 2 weeks ago. You don't know what they're spraying on us. There's a bomber jet that goes around the camp 24/7. I had a guy that just came in to try to bring in more Wi-Fi, and he actually found the stingrays that the militarized and DAPL and the Army is using. So
DAPL's Dakota Access Pipeline.
Yeah, Dakota Access Pipeline, where we cannot live stream or do anything. So that's another thing of lack of media coverage. So thank you all for.
We talked about that earlier before in the interview. We talked about how we started the conversation here on our show, and we were really concerned because we talked about the lack of coverage and why we couldn't find anything. Like, we literally had to dig. And with social media, sometimes you can't trust it all the time. But we had to dig to find, and we shared as much as we could of the experiences we were seeing through social media of the insane things that you guys were going through.
Actually, with Pharrell has people on his team that actually put me on to what was happening.
I wish Pharrell came.
Yeah.
Pharrell. I'm just gonna say what it is. He took a picture with a Native person that said "Stand with Standing Rock," but it was artists like Immortal Technique, artists like Taboo from Black Eyed Peas, Vic Mensa, and even the actors and actresses that actually came to Standing Rock and even took a day out to see and to come to all of the protectors that been camping out since April. So it means more when you come. It means more when you're there. And even we're not telling people to stop coming because we need people to come. But I'll stop talking because I know.
You, sir, introduce yourself and your role.
Okay.
What's happening there in Standing Rock?
Okay, Tanatapi, Netaniko, Unagumsuga, Nam Skapi Pakani. My name is Jossie Ross. I come from the Blackfeet Nation. I also come from the Suquamish Nation in Washington State, and I've been fortunate to be a part of this movement of the people. That's a absolutely woman-led movement. The matriarch of this movement is named LaDonna Brave Bull Allard, along with Washtiwi Young, along with Phyllis Young, and Joy Braun. They've been there since day one, since Bobby Jean. Since they were patient zero. They saw the coming cavalry, and they said we need to do something about it. And within our communities, when the women talk, we listen. We have no choice. And so this has been it's a powerful thing, and it's going to be a world changing thing one way or another, because it really is a fight, a battle for the conscious and for the soul of a good portion of America. When I say that, it's not hyperbole. When I say that, I mean that these battles, Standing Rock, as amazing as it is not unique. That's the scary thing about it, that there's communities, specifically indigenous communities. There's the Lummi tribe, which won a battle last year against the same oppressor for exactly the same thing. They want the desire to put a coal terminal through their ancestral fishing grounds, their salmon grounds. Where I come from, the Blackfeet Nation, we're fighting coal and natural gas, these refineries and stuff that want to exploit our land, and we say it has more value than money. We're actually telling a completely different story, that money is not the be-all, end-all. The Northern Cheyenne tribe, the Oglala Lakota, the Hopi tribe, and these battles are going on, and they're going on, and Standing Rock, the reason why it's risen to so much prominence and it's been so significant is because it's a beacon of hope amongst all those stories that, well, maybe there is a way that we can win this let's get as much money as we can and future generations be damned philosophy that we see going on, and we definitely see that with the president-elect Donald Trump, where he just today named Pruitt as his director of the EPA, a guy who doesn't believe in
is a senator from Oklahoma,
Attorney
General from
Yeah.
Oklahoma, who doesn't believe that humans are. Says that humans' contribution to global warming is questionable.
Right.
He's pro-corporation. He's pro-oil. He's
Fracking.
and these things that damage
all those
the
things.
environment.
And it's and it's deeper than that even, because we see the interconnections, we see the interface between the different stories where our value. This is what it comes down to. Our stories are and our communities are just valued less. That's the intersection with Black Lives Matter, where they say, well, we don't believe you that somebody got shot. That black person must have been doing something wrong, unless there's a video camera that says they actually weren't doing something wrong.
Even if there
And even if there is,
Yeah.
we can have a mistrial because one person still doesn't even believe that.
Right.
Maybe it was some special effects, maybe it
Or
was
maybe something happened before the camera started
right.
rolling.
Final Cut Pro, man, they were doing some stuff on there. Walter Scott really wasn't running away from him. So and so you see Flint, Michigan. You see, we were talking about Chester, Pennsylvania, where these black folks largely are being just attacked on a daily basis and told that your lives are not worth as much as everybody else's. Your health is not, your future generations aren't, your water's not. And that's exactly what happened in Standing Rock. And so I think the reason why people kind of really just galvanized around us because they said, I've seen this before. I've seen this before. I've heard this story before. I've watched it, and it scares me that it's happening again so egregiously and brazenly, where there was literally 2 tracks that could have this path could have went. This pipeline could have went, and one went toward Bismarck, which saying a white city in North Dakota is redundant, right? Because every place is white except for the reservations. And they said,
and not to cut you off,
Yeah, that's good.
They were concerned that running the pipeline
Absolutely.
towards Bismarck
Right.
might endanger the community.
yeah.
There might be some sort of oil spill, so let's not run it towards Bismarck.
That's right.
At which point, they wanted to run it through this land.
Danger's exactly the same.
The danger is the same, but
The
now
people are different.
Right,
People are different.
right.
We just don't. You can't put it any more clearly. We simply do not value you as much as we value
You're
them.
not as important.
That's right.
And then the racism that of the people in Bismarck are so upset that we are protesting the same pipeline that they
That
said
they
no
protested.
to. Yeah,
They protested.
I mean, it was
you.
to the point that where Vic Mensa and Jossie was following me, and they got pulled over, harassed by 5 cops. Vic Mensa put it on Facebook Live. As we're recording that, people are yelling at us because I had my jacket on and everything, and they're like, "Go home," and while we was recording the 5 cops that pulled them over, even him, Reverend Yearwood, got harassed
in the Bismarck. But I want to say this because I want to say that one of the things. First, I want to thank Hot 97 for your work because elections now do matter, right? Because we're talking about what happens when Donald Trump takes office on January 20th. And because of that, this process and this situation, this crime that's happening in North Dakota will have different effects and outcomes because of who's in office. And so it's important for everybody to listen to this. On the first thing, voting does matter. Second thing, you talk about Vic. It's good to see artists. I was with Vic in Baton Rouge with Alton Sterling, with Vic in Flint.
Vic was active in Chicago.
He was in Chicago with Carl McDonald and Standing Rock. So it's good to see artists like that. And I also want to say, Pharrell, all those artists, where they should go to Standing Rock, we are happy they getting engaged.
And using their platform.
And using
That's
their
true.
platform.
That's true.
That's important. But no, you're right. No, you're right. Because
Hold them accountable.
Yeah, exactly.
But
And measurable.
Acknowledge the little stuff, but still hold accountable. I think you could do both.
And I think the next step for us right now is that we got to look at this year. This year was the theme of dirty water and dirty police. Yes. Right? And for us, me looking at this and those who listen to this in hip hop saying, well, what does Standing Rock have to do with me? What does that matter what's going on in North Dakota? What's that fight have to do now that it's quote unquote over, because it's not over, as Immortal said. This is the thing. Standing Rock for our generation is not our Selma, but it's more than that. Selma for our parents was about equality. Standing Rock for us is about existence. Like literally, if we have the right to live. They had no value on humanity. So Standing Rock is everywhere. So if you don't think that you're a part of Standing Rock and you're in the Bronx or you're in Detroit or you're in New Orleans, wherever it may be, Standing Rock will come to your front door.
Well, and I think too, and this can also help those that don't understand the value of what's taking place all over the world and specifically in our country, the idea of ownership and what you actually have that's yours, right? We all desire to own a home one day, right? Like that's part of the dream of, owning a home and having a family. Here we're watching people who are indigenous to this land that we all call home, and this is their land on paper from the government.
That's right.
At the highest level over 100 years ago,
Yes.
right? They are still being challenged. Their ownership is still being challenged. Like that's significant. When literally, this is my home. No, it's not. We're a private company and we paid to come dig up this land and do what we want.
And significantly, not only dig on this land, the way it initially arose was that there was very, very sacred stuff there. There was sacred stuff there. They had been categorized as a sacred site. And so that was the one that I mentioned. That's the matriarch of it, LaDonna Brave Bull Allard. She's the Tribal Historic Preservation Officer. So her job is to identify sacred stuff.
Right.
And so she said, well, no, this is a spot. We don't need any digging here. That's not good. We need to do an appraisal of what exactly is there. What happened? What Yanajdaha was actually talking about, the story that she mentioned with the dogs, the reason why that was going on a day when they usually didn't do work was in efforts to destroy evidence. Yeah. In efforts to destroy evidence.
So they had the dogs searching.
No.
No.
They were bulldozing.
They were bulldozing, and when we went across that fence to stop them, we didn't see any dogs. So it was on Labor Day. There wasn't supposed to be any working, nothing at all.
Nothing going on.
And so when we saw the 5 or 6 bulldozers, we was just in awe and shock because we did not, it was like miles and miles of land they already leveled out. And so when we went across, and it was the woman, when we went across that fence to stop them, we actually went in front of the bulldozer and put our fist up and stop. And then that's when they brought out their dogs to scare us. But it was our unity and our voice. We didn't have no weapons. My son was drumming on the drum. Amy Goodman was right next to us. She was documenting all of it. And we used our voice, our unity, and told them to get off and stop. And then I heard one of the workers, and he was like, this is just not worth it. And they end up, after they had the dogs, sicking the dogs on us and the tear gas, then they ended up just leaving.
Well, it's interesting you bring up the workers too, because I also want to talk about the other side of this, which many of us and our loved ones who are all looking for work, right, and want to have a good holiday. It's the holiday season, and Donald Trump has used the holiday season in some of his rhetoric recently, where it's like, I'm gonna make sure you have a job this holiday season. I'm gonna do X, Y, Z, and we could get into the details of his bullshit later. It is important to note that the reason this pipeline exists is because they've sold to the state of North Dakota and South Dakota the opportunity for tax dollars and jobs for however many thousands of people.
Tens of thousands of people, which are, to your point, Ebro, they're non-sustainable jobs, which means the vast majority of them are going to be over in a series of months. And the only sustainable jobs are probably 1,000 or something in that permanent jobs. So they want to sell a much larger story to make people feel, oh, this is going to be some inclusive thing that includes 20,000 people, but that's just not true on paper. Kind of like saying, hey, I'm saving this company. Not really.
No, you're not.
Trump wasn't saving Carrier from going to Mexico.
But the reality is that if you could put the propaganda out there, we had this discussion off camera before, it almost doesn't matter if it's a fact. If I call you a murderer or something, and then the next day the statement gets retracted, the murderer stuff, the charges are the thing that stick in people's heads rather than the reality of what you're discussing.
All right, so ultimately, for the people watching right now at home, what is the state of Standing Rock? What is going to happen? How can people contribute?
Currently, what's the date, State? Thursday.
It's December 8th.
December 8th, 2016. Construction has stopped. Construction has stopped.
That's because the Army Corps of Engineers and the Obama administration said that they cannot dig under.
Yes,
No,
horizontally.
Just to correct you very quickly, it's because of the young people
That's right.
and all the other people.
And I wanna
then
make-
they forced them to step in
Right.
because power does not concede anything. Doesn't matter if it's left or right, blue or red. You got to put a fire under them. And
It took a
that's
long time
one of
before any of this
one
happened.
Of the biggest
That's right.
problems
And-
that
That's right.
people have had organizing, confronting, their own people and say, we got to do this.
Yeah, in real time, there's absolutely Obama did not save anything.
No.
Obama did not do anything. No. Obama simply responded to a whole bunch of pressure because he's had opportunity upon opportunity upon opportunity to do something. What he did do was, I think, is he foresaw something going down that was going to be really bad because shout out to United States Army. I don't consider myself a big supporter of the military and stuff, but the vets, they came out and showed so much love. There was 4,000 veterans that came out there.
Yeah.
They said, we're going to make a human shield.
And they did.
We're gonna make a human shield. You're not gonna harm any of these folks right here. You're gonna harm us. And they were ready. And during that blizzard, I showed you those pictures of the blizzard. The blizzard's going on right now. Everybody stay warm in Standing Rock. They were still making action, going toward that bridge, the hotly contested bridge, and going toward that hill because they said this is right. Not only that, and I don't want to talk too much, but they also, very, very importantly, General Wesley Clark Jr., they did a reconciliation ceremony where
saw
they
that on
literally
video.
got on their knees and said, we want forgiveness for always being on the wrong side in our interactions with indigenous people. We've always been, this is heavy. Spiritual
Posted
stuff.
on,
Yeah.
I think it was on Al Jazeera. They posted the video today.
Spiritual stuff. Like, I'm not that emotional. You know, Mulan is the only movie that ever made me cry. But I was tearing up. Like, oh man, this is beautiful because it was so honest. And
Why
it was so,
did that happen? Who led that?
all the veterans?
What was his name? It was a Pacific guy that I forgot his name.
General West Clark Jr.
John,
Oh,
It was
yeah,
Wesley
yeah,
Clark
yeah,
Jr.?
yeah.
Yes. And they said this
West
is the
Park.
right
Yeah.
they just said this is the right thing. And that's something that I think, outside the politics, Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, it's just a matter of right and wrong. Do you want to be on the right side of history and wrong? So you asked specifically, Peter, about what the state is right now. Construction is stopped. But that does not mean, according to public record from Energy Transfer Partners, the company that owns the Dakota Access Pipeline, according to their own public record, said that as soon as Donald Trump resumes or gets into office, they expect things to resume as usual. So they're looking forward about a month and a half, and we're going to find a way because we have this guy Pruitt and we have this guy Donald Trump and we have everybody else who's pro-development. All we have to do is make our case because we can say, as Immortal said very eloquently, that we're going to make however many jobs. We're going to promise the moon, and this thing is going to be back in motion. So nothing has changed other than the construction has physically stopped.
Okay.
All of the equipment is there. All that barbed wire is
Prepared
there.
to get back to work.
They're ready to get busy.
The bridge is still closed. They have two armored trucks.
Tanks.
As a matter of fact, that is on the 1806 road, is the one road that you take to go straight into Standing Rock. It's the quickest road, and they have basically barricaded themselves in just so they can work prior to this this decision that Obama made. So they barricaded themselves in with barbed wire with these these tanks that's on the bridge.
Obama was forced to make.
Yeah,
He was forced to make by
Right.
all the organizers, every single color, every powerful.
So Pharrell, even your tweet, was great.
Full circle we've come.
Yeah, right. No shade, no shade.
Yeah, no shame. Everyone that tweeted, that shared, that used social media, that even yourselves and some other media platforms that even just brought awareness of what was going on, helped in regards to that. But the thing is that as Lakota people and as Native people, we are not going anywhere. The chairman did just make an announcement yesterday that those that need to go home to their family, should.
It's cold.
It is freezing. I mean, we was just in a blizzard. We got
It's
there
20 below, right?
Yeah.
We got stuck. Like
We
there's
got
literally
stuck.
6 miles between the casino and the
And the
camp,
camp.
and we went up to eat. Like we were staying in the yurt, and we
Yeah.
went up to eat.
Yeah.
We couldn't even make it back those 6
Well,
miles.
I made it because see, I was like, I'm going through this.
Try to brag.
Yeah. I ran through camp at 30 miles per hour winds just so I could get the rest of my stuff at camp because I was staying. I
My
was
stuff
camping
is still
out.
there.
Yeah, his stuff is still there. But it was me and the Ferguson crew. We was like, we're gonna do this, and we did it. But the thing is that those that want to stay, they could stay, and they are staying. And because I won't say that we're fearful, but we just don't know with Trump coming into office
I get a little-
of
can I-
what's
we have
to
to. I
come.
think for what I'm hearing is you have to. I've read an article that Trump is for the pipeline.
Absolutely.
Yes, he is.
100%.
He had at
All
one point.
pipelines.
They're saying he sold his stock in all of his businesses that he was invested in, but he at one point had $100,000 invested in this, which for him is chump
Nothing.
change.
It's Trump change.
That too. But we would have to assume that inauguration day is January 20th.
Yeah.
That on January 21st, they will try to get back to work. And what happens on that day?
Well, there's some there's some next steps there. So first, let me just lift up the political prisoners who were there. There were over 500 people
Free
who were
Red Fawn.
Yeah,
Free Red Fawn.
That's
yeah.
my cousin.
Hashtag.
So there's over 500 people who were arrested over these months, who were legally arrested in some cases, and they have cases still pending.
Overcharged
So we
like
want to.
crazy.
So we want to make sure that there are legal funds that are set up. People can go to standingrock.net.
.org.
.org, standingrock.org, on that aspect for legal funds and just to help the
And
camp.
that's to donate.
That's
Yes.
right,
And
exactly.
to be involved on everything, or text water to 82623.
One more time.
Text water to 82623 to get all updates of what's happening in Standing Rock, to find out what actions and how you could be involved in your own local city in regards to Standing Rock. So it's the official text water to 82623 that's coming from Standing Rock's Tribal Council.
And then the piece there around divestment is probably the next step. Is that we want to divest. So divest is something that was done in South Africa and Soweto to help this transition from a rule of apartheid. And so we're doing that now as well with DAPL, the Dakota Access Pipeline, and other fossil fuel pieces. But we want to divest all the money that was going to this pipeline to pull your money out. So the banks, for instance, from
TD.
Wells
Bank
Fargo,
of America,
TD Bank,
are all the big banks
Chase.
supporting the
Chase.
Dakota
Pretty much.
Access?
All of them.
Pretty much all the big
Yeah.
ones.
All the ones.
Bank locally.
and then
So all of the big major banks that we bank with are financing this bankrolling.
and folks who started pulling money out and they looked at DAPL divest,
They're feeling the pressure.
they feeling the pressure because Wells Fargo actually sent a letter
Push harder.
to the tribe to say, hey, what's happening here? So that's something that you can do right now. You can go and you can actually go to this site, peoplesclimatemusic.com, which is where a lot of artists have been posting some things to find about the divestment strategies in that aspect. But also stop the fossil fuel companies who are also investing their money in this process. And
What is that? Is that BP, Shell,
BP,
Sunoco?
Shell, Sunoco actually the one who actually just recently
They purchased the whole company.
purchased Energy Transfer, which owns the Dakota Access Pipeline.
So Energy Transfer owns the Dakota Access Pipeline, and Sunoco just bought Energy Transfer?
It's a shell company that's intended. It's like a mutual fund. So there's a whole bunch of people that invest in it in order to mitigate risk for each individual investor.
And then let me say this to us, because I think this is important for us as people, us in hip hop, and as civil and human rights organizations. We have to stop taking money that kills our people.
That's right.
And so, from the Congressional Black Caucus, that has Sunoco and BP and Wells Fargo, to special organizations, to even us in hip hop who've been taking that, we have to divest. We have to say, no, we're not going to take money that's killing our people. And that could be from the industrial complex, but definitely for pipelines. We got to start today. And if we do that and use our platforms and just look at that and hold them accountable and say, we're not going to take this money that is actually going to kill people who are in Standing Rock or in Flint, that could be a huge start today for our movement and for the hip hop community.
Immortal Technique, I saw you. There was something you wanted to contribute there. I wanted to make sure you got it.
I just wanted to add that if anyone's in New York right now listening, we're going to do a show on Monday at Brooklyn Bowl. Myself and CF and a lot of other incredible indigenous artists. The Standing Rock Youth Council, I believe, will be there, and a series of dancers. It's going to be a wonderful event. Like I said, I'm just there to support and to show my love and to make perhaps have a larger conversation with some of my people who are so-called Latino and explain to them, hey man, we have these indigenous roots. Like we speak a Latin-based language and other people speak, a Germanic-based language that we're communicating in right now. And this is the difference between us, right? We were still colonized through the same means, the destruction of our relationship with our women, our economics, our politics and everything. So in order to get back to that, we want to raise as much awareness as we can. We take in donations, and of course, please just come and support us. Right. We want to let people know that we do celebrate, as the brother said, we do celebrate this small victory, but we are by no means declaring a full victory. The fight is not over. Please don't think that it is, so that way it then disperses people or makes them think, oh, this is over. I can check this off my list. It's not over. They still have every intention to go forward. So until we see it rerouted, until we see other people then taken care of in terms of where this pipeline is going to end up going, we're going to follow that trail.
That's right.
We're going to stay on that trail, and we're
also,
going to light a fire.
if your community lives down that Missouri River,
to Illinois.
That's another very
Right.
important
right?
point.
There's a lot of
22
people who don't
million
even
people.
realize that if contamination happens, water travels south most of the time.
It usually does.
Yeah, most of the time. If you live below Standing Rock, it's interesting to note that I haven't seen a lot from those communities concerned about their own water supply.
Well, I think
and
it's
their
all-
own farming lands that could be affected if this.
They are. It's just that they've been heavily infused with propaganda. Oh, these people are just rebel rousers, out of town troublemakers. That's what they get. And the reality is that until they actually sit down and talk with brothers and sisters like this, and they say, wait, we're not just fighting for our water.
Yeah.
It's your water too that's going to be destroyed. You're going to be on the chopping block. You think you're safe. You think that somehow, because what? Because you were born in this country, because you have lighter skin, that somehow the carcinogens or whatever nastiness is in the water is not going to affect you? Of course it is. Listen, the difference between science and religion is that in religion you have to believe in it for it to be true. Science don't care if it's not true. Oh, I don't believe in that. Oh yeah, you don't believe in gravity? I'm sorry, honey. It doesn't matter what you believe in. This is the reality. Your water's going to be poisoned too. I'm sorry.
Right.
Please.
Classic. That was dope, man.
And another thing too is, and to add on to what you were saying, here even at the Hudson River, they're building an oil pipeline. Last time I was here with a group of members from Standing Rock, as well as Natani Means and Keys IMC, there was a protest at the Hudson River because of that oil pipeline. But about Standing Rock, the plight of indigenous people have been silenced. The only time you hear about Native Americans is during so-called Christopher Columbus Day or Thanksgiving, and that's it. Native Americans have the highest rate of police
Redskins
brutalities. Redskins, but that's not even taken. No one doesn't even think of Native Americans with Redskins, or how that may affect us, or the Cleveland Indians. And so after the Standing Rock talk, that media's, I think that all leadership meetings, conferences, of dialogues, the Native voice needs to be heard more. Imagine a 5-year-old, and Jossie was pointing this out to me, imagine a 5-year-old that doesn't see themselves on television, that doesn't see themselves in sports, or any of that. And so I think the voice of Native people need to be more in the conversation as well. And so as the world is all talking about Standing Rock and all coming to Standing Rock, when everyone leaves Standing Rock, the voice of Native people needs to be in the conversation, needs to be in the dialogue of what's happening, of the missing Indigenous woman in Canada, police brutality, the drugs, alcoholism. I mean, we deal with the same things that every oppressed people of the world deal with. It's just that our voice is not heard, and it needs to be heard more after Thanksgiving.
I want to review really quick. You can text water to
82623.
And I think
StandingRock.org.
and StandingRock.org to make donations, which are going to go to legal fees and helping people who are on the front lines who are getting accused with crazy things just for standing up for their land. I think. Go ahead, Immortal.
No, just same thing with that and the show. And also, I want to point to my brother here, who's a lawyer. He didn't say that in the introduction. You
could tell.
He's too modest. But I want to say I really want him to speak on the overcharging of these people, because we're not only doing this show to pay for the supplies for the individuals going to stay there for the winter. We want to financially support the camp as much as we can, but also these incredible legal fees that have amassed because people have been specifically overcharged by the state. And I think it's very important for my brother to touch on that topic.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm a lawyer, man. That's the other hat. But there's two things regarding legal stuff right now. So let me just tell you how thirsty Energy Transfer Partners is that despite having this very, very imminent date, this January 20th coming up, there's actually a hearing, an emergency hearing tomorrow. And so I'm going to give the information for that. So if any folks in Washington, D.C. want to go down there, protest these folks trying to bring this thing up, because they're saying even that's too long. We don't even want to wait that long. So we're going to appeal this determination by the Army Corps of Engineers. And so that's happening tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. at 333 Constitution Avenue, Friday, December 9th, Judge Boasberg's courtroom 19. And that's how thirsty, this is what we're talking about, is that there's such a presumption that we are right, that our money makes us right. Our ability to get these permits makes us right. Our ability to get these easements makes us. And so that's the interesting thing about this overall narrative, and generally the overall narrative of rich people and poor people. This has everything to do with race, but it has zero to do with race at the same time. It has everything to do with money. And the poor white people get trampled on exactly the same. And there's been such a presumption that the native people in this, those folks are just coincidental. We don't even care. Like, we're looking past you. We're not even focused on you. And you happen to be a small inconvenience. And you see that we're not even going to look toward January 20th. We expect things to get back par for the course on January 20th, but we're so cold and so confident in our analysis that you're just a minor inconvenience that we're going to pick up on December 9th and try to get this thing moving, even though President Obama said under pressure from all of these thousands, tens of thousands of protesters, protectors, water protectors, people hashtagging, people praying, all those things, despite all of that, we're going to just pick up on December 9th and it's going to be business as usual. Regarding the overcharging, very specifically, that's a human rights violation. And the reason why it's a human rights violation, it's considered to be general deterrence. General deterrence has its roots in Sun Tzu, Machiavelli, that says we are going to make an example of one person and do something really foul to this one person. And that one person in this case happens to be a young sister, Lakota sister by the name of Red Fawn. But there's a whole bunch of folks who are charged with felonies, specifically for a good friend of mine who is an amazing organizer and whose organization, Thunder Valley Community Development Corporation, Nick Tilson, he's a bad dude. He chained himself to a piece of construction equipment, and he chained himself so much so that it took them 6 hours. This is his fact pattern. It took them 6 hours to saw him out of this piece of construction equipment. They charged him with felony reckless endangerment. Their argument was this: these people whose job it is to saw, to chop people out of stuff, they were endangered because they had to do their job by chopping him out of this equipment. This is the thing you get paid for. You join a labor union to do this, but yet you were endangered by this, and you're going to get a felony charge as the result of this. There's been these sort of
What
things.
should the charge for something like that have been?
It should have been, malicious mischief,
disorderly,
trespass, disorderly conduct. I mean, those are misdemeanors. These were intended to deter people from even coming there. Of course. Part of the court order,
and not to cut you off, even the headlines about the fines for delivering. I saw some of that stuff where they were fining people for delivering food and water, or the harassment and the traffic tickets for being stuck in literal traffic because the roads were blocked. There were people getting traffic tickets who were trying to deliver things, but there was traffic because y'all blocked the roads.
Or when Vic Mensa and I got pulled over. Yeah. That was, we went pulled into Mandan Municipal Airport for he's a chain smoker, so he had to smoke. And we got chased out of there by some white dudes doing some white shit, and they was chasing us really, really fast. And when we got our reward for that was to get pulled over by 5 police cars. And that stuff isn't intended to have any, real substantial effect other than to create an environment of confusion, of fear, like those stingrays she was talking about, where your phones actually this really happens in real time. Your phones just shut off. They just shut off. You're recording. One of our only covers there when things are going like, oh man, they're shooting rubber bullets, and it shuts off.
That's crazy.
That's really happening.
The only protection we have is our phone, and it's the most it's the most irritating thing because I'm sorry, that's the only protection we have is our phones because we don't have we don't have any weapons at camp. We don't have no bows and arrows. They even said take down your bows and arrows, like just as racist slurs things that they would say to us when we're on the front lines.
And also to record themselves saying it so that they can
so all we have is our phones.
some sort of assault or something.
Yeah, I was like Matt McGorry from Orange is the New Black and How to Get Away with Murder. He went to the front lines with me, and and he was frustrated because he was like, I have all of these followers. They need to see what these police are doing. These militarized.
And the phone would shut down.
Shut off.
Shut down.
They send a pulse. It's a military application.
EMP.
Yeah. When I was in Afghanistan in 2009, whenever the phone went out, I would literally expect to see a convoy coming, and that's because the IEDs were being exploded through a calling device. Someone would call a beeper or a cell phone that was attached to whatever it was.
So it's a military tactic.
And it's
In
illegal.
other words, they put out a pulse so that whenever a convoy of tanks or armored carriers would come through with an HVT or something like high value target, they would then allow them to legally, for their standard, although it is an illegal action, pulse out and knock out everybody's communication. So the TV would go. So the TV would go off, or you wouldn't be able to. Your phone would just die. I was on the phone, boom, and it died, and then I was like, wait a minute, 3, 2, 1, like clockwork. So it's something
And
that
obviously
they're
they've
using,
determined-
right?
And they're probably their cover for this is they've determined that this is a quote some sort of situation. It's a militarized situation, right? They're treating it as such. The people who own the Dakota Access Pipeline, what is that?
Energy Transfer Partners.
Energy Transfer Partners is a multi-billion-dollar multinational
Exactly.
company, I'm sure.
Yes.
They're paying tax dollars to the
And
state.
the owner has a music festival, which is important. The owner of the Energy Transfer Partners has a music festival that
that's
people
right.
are boycotting.
Which
What
one is
music
it?
festival?
What's the name of the festival? It's actually in Texas. It's actually on his ranch. But if you just Google Energy Transfer Partners owner music festival, then it will come up his festival next year. But many artists are now boycotting
Jackson
that.
Brown didn't go. Shout out to Jackson Brown. He did a benefit
So it comes up
concert.
next year. So artists don't go to that festival.
One of the and I obviously working in capitalist America and being a part of the corporate environment, I understand that the biggest piece of all of this is the activity on the ground.
Yeah.
But the actual tracking of the money
That's right.
and divestment and what you
Yep.
talked about, and being able to support people, obviously, with StandingRock.org and making sure those legal fees get handled, but also starting to pay attention to the companies that support this behavior.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right? And making sure that when you get your hard-earned money in your paycheck, that you put it in banks that supports the type of behavior you want for your community, your state, or your federal government. So that, and I think that's something that on the responsibility of us as the individuals who are not there at Standing Rock, who have platforms like this, or even on your social media to do, because sometimes people try to do the research, and we know this because we deal with hardworking blue-collar people every day that literally they wake up, they get their kids ready to go to school, they go to work, they work really hard, they make just enough to pay their bills, they want to get some rest and enjoy their family and fall in love and go about their day, that the amount of time in the day that it takes to do this type of research, to find this type of information, that's kind of what our job is to try to help that information flow easier to people so they know, hey, no, don't fuck with this person. You want to fuck with this person. But we, as we discussed earlier, we live in a time where people don't know who to trust.
I think
They don't know what's real and what's fake. And I think that we need to continue on a couple of messages as we leave from here, which is on January 21st, right? Things could get much realer because of Donald Trump.
That's right.
You have a situation tomorrow going down in D.C., right there on
DC.
Constitution Avenue.
Get out there.
Where
Get
that's
out.
gonna they're pushing to appeal the Army Corps of Engineers. But
Divest.
once again, making sure that the companies that are for this pipeline start to feel the pinch is a part of what
That's
the
at
behavior needs to be.
peoplesclimatemusic.com.
peoplesclimatemusic.com, and you can see there.
We're going to be listing off, and actually Tableau's video is there now, and we're listing off ways that you can divest, do petitions, and all the companies that will be engaged in this process.
All right, so the fight's not over. Is there any, let's
Not
make
even
sure.
close.
Not even close.
I want to say this is that to add on to what you're saying about blue collar, there's different, as an activist or a freedom fighter, there's different positions in revolution, and we have to respect everybody's position in what they're doing, from media to even those that's on the front line, to even those that cannot go on the front lines, but like Beyonce said, the best revenge is your paper, and to be able to divest and but respecting everybody's position, because we're in a time right now where Trump being elected is a wake-up call for us to unify. We're going now into a place of good versus evil. As much as they want us they want us to have a race war amongst each other, we have to look at being on the right side and not being on the wrong side. And that's really, as we're going into this next year, as unifying and our efforts, unifying our voice against the injustice that is happening all across the world, all across America. So,
and the fight is on several fronts.
Yes, it is.
Right. So to her point, respect everybody's role in it, and just understand that we have to be able to do all of these things at the same time if we want to be successful at any of them.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. And we got to work together. That's the most important thing, is that this is 100% about race, but it's not about race, because they're coming for you. I promise, whoever it is, unless you got a couple billion in there, they're coming for you. They don't care about your rights. Any of the people who are proprietors of these particular companies, they're not going to live downstream from this water. It's all of us.
Right.
It's largely brown-skinned folks, but that's just a proxy for poor. Yeah. Pretty soon they're coming for you, poor white folks, so we need you too. Thank you for coming out there.
I just want to say,
last words,
and end with this, that there's an old saying that says that corruption, once exposed, has no other refuge but audacity, right? So imagine if you have your wallet and it's missing, and all of a sudden you say, Technique, you stole my wallet. No, I didn't take your shit. Well, where's my wallet? Where is it? And all of a sudden, I don't have it. Open your pocket, my wallet's in there. Well, you had 3 wallets. Now that's why I took your wallet.
That's the only option you have at that point.
This is what we're dealing with now. They've been exposed. Their corruption has been exposed. So their only refuge is audacity. Their only refuge is to go balls out with lies, with propaganda. So this is why we need to be even more unified, to forget our petty differences between each other and love and acknowledge each other as human beings, right? Because honestly, he mentioned race, right? Race is a social construct. Racism may be real, but we're one human race of human beings.
That's real.
Right? And I think that's what's important. In 1,000 years, people will discuss this. They'll say, can you believe that they were polluting water to run this Flintstones car that they had at that age? Are you serious? And at that particular point, don't waste the only resource that we have. There are millions of species on this planet that live without love. Not one of them can live without water.
Right, water's life.
Mini Wachoni.
Water's life.
Mini Wachoni.
No dapple.
Yo, thanks for your time, and hopefully we gave y'all some information today that could be useful. And share this, because this conversation isn't happening everywhere. It's not happening freely, and we're honored to have you guys today.
See you Monday.